Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
We're taking a journey to find out how many terrible and hopefully some not so terrible books from my youth I can get my husband to read before he reconsiders his whole marriage. Hi!
Hey, love. Got a bit of a scratchy throat today.
But it's not the corona.
We're hoping not.
Most likely.
Yeah, it's because the trees are having lots and lots of sex.
Yeah, the allergies are kicking your ass.
And bushes and shrubs and grass and fungi and all kinds of things are getting busy right now.
And getting all up in your throat. So this week we read Babysitter's Club number 15, Little Miss Stoneybrook and Dawn, by Anne M. Martin, of course, published in 1988. Please, tell us about it.
Dawn's a little jealous when there's a formal ceremony to welcome Jessie and Mallory into the Babysitter's Club. Don't people know that Dawn's a special babysitter too? Then it's Dawn's turn to shine. Mrs. Pike wants Dawn to help prepare Margot and Claire for the Little Miss Stoneybrook contest. So what if Margot's only talent is peeling a banana with her feet? Dawn's going to help her charges win that contest any way she can. The only trouble is, Christy, Marianne, and Claudia are helping Karen, Mariah, and Charlotte enter the contest too. And nobody's sure where the competition is fiercer, at the pageant or at the Babysitter's Club.
Whoa! So on a scale of 1 being the best book ever to The Dementor's Kiss of 10, sucking the soul from your love of reading, what do you got?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a fuck you.
Wow!
Almost as bad as the last fuck you.
Are you serious?
This book was grating. It was grating.
Okay, yes. This was a terrible choice for an audiobook in particular. Holy shit, I am sorry for that.
I give it an 8. An 8.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I give it a 5 just because it was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Could you see yourself teaching little girls to be in a pageant or being the little girls in the pageant?
Both. When I was reading it as a kid, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now I totally could. I don't know if I would, though.
Right.
If I take a Mallory and Jessie stance on it. I don't know. It would depend on the pageant. We'll talk about that later. So I've always read this title like a couple of different ways. Like, it's ominous, like Little Miss Stoneybrook and Dawn, dun dun dun. Or Little Miss Stoneybrook and Dawn. I like that way better. It's like, oh yeah, she's here too. And it works with the cover because she's just kind of peeking out from the side. I always saw that as Karen, Charlotte, and Mariah. Even though Charlotte was never up there that long. So yeah, Christy is making a huge, big old deal out of Mallory and Jessie joining the club. She works up a whole induction ceremony, and Dawn is totes jealous because all she got when she joined was a crappy-ass pizza toast.
Oh.
And then she and everybody else gets all mad at Claudia because Charlotte Johansson has asked for her specifically to sit for her. And Christy's all, I came up with kids. And Marianne's, I got Jenny Prezioso to the hospital. And Dawn's all, I got 2 kids out of a burning house in California. So the ceremony continued after their little tiff.
Well, Dawn was kind of an afterthought. Like, yeah, I guess we need more members.
Yeah.
And the others are kind of more thought out, like, hey, we're going to need more members. So,
and there were tests.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of like, oh, it'd be nice for her to join. Yeah, she was an afterthought. Aw. So the ceremony includes the girls putting their hands on the BSC notebook and vowing, I promise to be a good, reliable, and safe sitter, and to be true to the Babysitter's Club forevermore. And Marianne cries because, of course, she does. So, not the greatest meeting for Dawn overall. But when she gets home that night, she wishes she could have stayed at that meeting because Jeff has gotten into trouble at school again. His teacher thinks he should go to a psychiatrist. He's so awful. He punched a kid in the eye. It's like, and he just gets in trouble. Like, he doesn't get expelled or anything. Dawn's like, you're lucky you weren't expelled.
Yeah, that's back in the day, yo.
Yeah. You could just get away with that shit?
You get a spanking and a note home.
Oh. Cool. I don't know if they were so into spankings in Connecticut.
Yeah, don't know.
Then I don't ever recall it as a threat 2 years later, but yeah. Anyway, he explains that he's got all this anger that bubbles up from within him, and he thinks that might go away if he were allowed to go back to California to live with their dad. And Sharon gives this some serious thought and then begins making phone calls to see if it could happen. It's like, damn, that was a quick decision, Sharon.
Well, I mean, if she can't control him herself.
Yeah, but still, you think she'd have like, I don't know, a night of thinking about it. But no, she just jumps right on the phone. But Dawn is super pissed at Jeff and then super sad. So before the next meeting, the girls read about the Little Miss Stoneybrook pageant in the newspaper. Most of the girls agree that pageants are sexist, but it would probably be fun for little girls. But Mallory and Jessie take a hard stance against it, and I think that's dope. It was honestly kind of cool to be reading about sexism in a book when I was probably 6 or 7, you know. That may be why I am the way I am today. Part of it. I don't know. So the pageant is for girls ages 5 to 8. Doesn't that seem like super limited?
Super limited.
I mean,
it's very convenient for the story that they would have this.
Right.
In a very small range of ages.
It's like, normally that's like one group.
Yeah.
Like there'd be little, like that's Little Miss. And then there's preteen and teen and what. But I guess it would be like super weird if there were like girls like 13, like the babysitters.
It would have put them into the mix of going into it as well. And not just being like pageant moms, but I'm doing quotation marks like you can hear it. Pageant moms in quotation marks.
I could hear it.
Yeah.
But, I don't think any of the BSC girls would even think of entering themselves. If Stacy were still there, maybe. Although it might not be sophisticated enough. But anyway. So Mrs. Pike calls and she asks Dawn if she'll help Claire and Margot prepare for the pageant. And she only chose Dawn because Dawn lives the closest, aside from Mallory, of course, but she knows how Mal feels about pageants. And so, she wouldn't need a ride or anything. She's just the most convenient. So Dawn says yes, and most of the other girls are super pissed that she got a special job. How dare she? And Mallory just gets very melodramatic about her sisters being in it. Mallory clapped her hand to her forehead and moaned, "Oh no, my sisters, my baby sisters, they'll be contaminated. They'll be brainwashed. If I become the sister of Little Miss Stoneybrook, I will absolutely die." I love you, Mal, but calm down. Okay, then Christy's sitting for her brother and stepbrother and stepsister Karen. Dawn's telling us about them, and she goes, Christy really loves them. Who wouldn't? Karen is this funny, daring, imaginative, outspoken 6-year-old. She likes to tell wild stories and make up games. Me, I wouldn't love her, Dawn. God, why does Karen get all this love for being a sociopath?
Yeah.
And then poor Jenny's over there just being a 4-year-old who likes dresses. And she gets all the hate. This is the hill I'm going to die on.
Anne missed a great opportunity with this one, Karen being in the mix.
Yeah.
In this. She really didn't have Karen go off. I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
I expected at least a couple of kids to be crying before it was over with.
Well, from
Karen.
Karen. Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah. So you didn't actually hate Karen as much as you could have in this one, huh?
I would have loved it if they had taken the antagonist in the show, in the Little Miss Stoneybrook contest, and had Karen mess with her mind.
Oh, man, that would have been good.
That would have been good. But Anne didn't go there.
No. Oh, yeah. Wasted opportunity.
Yep.
You're totes right. Damn. Christy tells Karen all about the pageant, and of course she wants to be in it because she needs all that attention on her. So now Christy's helping her. And yeah, she's mainly thinking, I'll prove I'm just as good or better than Dawn, of course. So Sharon gives the kids the news that everything has been worked out and Jeff is going back to California. And Dawn gets all upset again, but Jeff is thrilled. And I mean, he's kind of a dick about it, but he's a 10-year-old boy who's getting what he really, really wants. You know, I mean, I can't blame him too much for being inconsiderate about Dawn and their mom's feelings.
Right.
Although normally he's such a cool kid. And he turns out to be a cool kid after this now. And yeah. But he's 10. I'll let it go. So on the news, coming off of that news, Dawn has her first session with Claire and Margot. And Margot just wants to wear her bathing suit. So, like, fashion alert, kind of. On the front was a gigantic alligator, its mouth open in a grin, full of big triangular felt teeth. Why would you put felt on a bathing suit? That really bothers me. That's like heavy. I know it's just little teeth, but that's weird on a bathing suit. Sorry.
Well, I mean, if it's just little teeth, give some texture. That's
really weird texture. Yeah. Now it would be sequins, probably. That would be dope. But Dawn tells her that's probably not appropriate. So they figure out what their talents are going to be. Air quotation marks again. So Claire is going to sing the Popeye song. She says, that's it. That's my talent. That's my best song. Okay, so y'all don't listen to the audiobook of this. It is horrible. Anytime there's a song, the narrator does it in like this really stiff, robotic, weird voice to actually not, like, to keep from actually singing, I guess. She's like, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I live in a garbage can. No, I think I'm singing it more melodically than she actually did. It was, I can't even do it because it's a song. There should be some rhythm to it. It's awful.
It was very monotone.
Yeah. And like, Claire sings it over and over and over again in the book. So I was like, oh no, you're going to have to hear this over and over and over again. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about it. Would you prefer to have actually read this one?
I don't know. No. At least I can speed up the audiobook.
Yeah. Okay. And so then Margot is going to peel a banana with her feet, but she doesn't think that's enough. So then she is going to recite the house that Jack built while eating said banana. And then Dawn just comes to this realization. It hadn't really occurred to me that the Pike girls would be competing against each other. What if one of them did win the pageant? The other would lose, not just to strangers or even friends, but to her own sister. How awful. On the other hand, I was beginning to think that there wasn't much chance that either girl would win. Not with banana peeling and rude Popeye sauce. Like, damn, Dawn. I mean, you're right. And she, flat out says she doesn't think they're pageant material. And yes, she is correct. Right. At least she didn't say it out loud, I guess. But, who is pageant material? Perfect Mariah Perkins. She can dance ballet and tap and sing and act, you name it. And so Marianne jumps all over the chance to help her with the pageant. Mrs. Perkins tries to give advice about how they should handle it. Mariah might lose. Some girls will take it very seriously and might not be nice. And Mariah seems to take all this in, but Mary Ann doesn't. Dawn says, we kept talking about how winning wasn't important, and not one of us really believed it. The fact is, Mary Ann knew, and she could feel it, that she was going to be the one to sponsor the winner of the Little Miss Stoneybrook crown. She would prove that she was the best babysitter of all. And then Claudia sits for Charlotte, and they talk about how much they both miss Stacy. And then Claudia has the idea of going over to her house and calling Stacy on her phone. And Charlotte talks to her, and that's really pretty sweet, because Charlotte's cool as hell. And then Claudia talks to her, and Charlotte pokes around Claudia's room, and she finds the paper with the article about the pageant. And so Claudia's all like, hey, that would be fun for you to do. And Charlotte's like, not really. I'd rather read. But Claudia talks her into doing it anyway. And Charlotte decides she could do a dramatic reading, but she worries about being pretty enough. And they say, the thing is, Charlotte is quite pretty with big dark eyes and chestnut colored hair, but Claudia knew how useless it is to try to convince someone that she's pretty when she thinks she's not. So all she said was, this isn't just a beauty show, Charlotte. I agree. I guarantee it. I mean, you could still say she's pretty, Claudia. It seems kind of harsh just to say, I'm not pretty.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about that. I mean, even if you don't convince her, my God, say something, Claudia. So, the older BSC girls get all competitive with each other at the next meeting. Dawn gets pissed because all the other girls are keeping their girls' talents a secret when they all know Claire and Margot's talents. And then they start talking about how they have to prepare the girls for the question and answer part, which Dawn hadn't even considered practicing with them. And Mallory and Jessie are disgusted, and it's great. So the day before the pageant, Dawn's having a dress rehearsal with the girls and trying not to go crazy listening to Margot recite her poem yet again. And Marianne calls to see what they're doing, and Claudia and Charlotte just come on in to spy. Dawn says it's gotten too competitive and it isn't fun anymore. It never sounded fun in the first place, but okay. And then that night, it's time to take Jeff to the airport and say goodbye. It's actually pretty sad. Except for Jeff, being on top of the world again. Being kind of a dick, but again, he's a 10-year-old boy. But fortunately for Dawn, the pageant is the next day, able to take her mind off of Jeff. The Pike Girls' room is like a huge mess with all the things for the pageant all spread out. I don't understand why they didn't have everything like neatly together after they've taken it off from the dress rehearsal the day before. Why wasn't all that stuff already packed and nice and neat when you had time the day before? It really bothers me. I'm sorry. But it's fine. They get it all together. And when they get there, it's a madhouse backstage, and all the girls are nervous. And we get to meet the infamous Sabrina Bouvier, the younger. Remember that name later on in the series.
What is it? The Bouvier?
Yeah. And Sabrina curtsied daintily. so very pleased to meet you, she said in this funny, false voice. This is my 6th pageant. That's how I know about the jitters. She was showing the girls some relaxing breathing exercises when a woman wearing tons of jewelry and even more perfume approached us. Her perfume reached us before she did. Come along, Sabrina, said the woman. I want to try to introduce you to the judges. Sabrina smiled sweetly at the other girls. This is my mother. I really must run, she said. There's always so much to do before a pageant. I do wish you the very best of luck. Claudia figures she must be a real pageant head. A poor kid who gets roped into any beauty contest or pageant that comes along. Her whole life is one big smile. She's not that pretty, I pointed out. Damn, Dawn! So when they're going over the prizes, second place gets this, shopping spree at a Toy City. And Dawn's all like, oh, I wouldn't mind that prize. I could get stuff for my kid. It's like, shut up, Dawn. Stop trying to come off so mature. I would love to have a shopping spree at a toy store if we still had them.
Yeah.
Today, as a 37-year-old. That would be dope as hell. Shit for my kid, whatever. So Mariah kicks ass tap dancing and singing on the good ship Lollipop. And that was even worse on the audiobook. Because Mariah is a good singer and performer, apparently. So her going on the good ship Lollipop is a sweet trip to the candy shop. Oh my God, it was terrible. I'm so sorry. Then Claire has to follow her. But everyone laughs at the faces that Claire makes, and she really hams it up. So it goes really well. And Margot does fine with her weird banana routine. Then Karen sings 15 damn verses of The Wheels on the Bus. Was there no time limit? What the fuck? I don't know how long that would be, but it would be pretty fucking on an annoying ass song. Oh, how was that? I didn't hear any of that.
It didn't actually sing the song. Oh, yeah, it did. It said, and then she said this verse, and then she said this verse.
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't repetitive like the other ones, so I guess it wasn't as bad.
Oh, yeah. And then Sabrina. She was wearing a long black evening gown and white gloves that went up over her elbows. Her hair was piled onto her head like Miss Bunting's, the judge? Yeah. She sang some song I never heard of called Moon River. So, yeah, doing a whole Breakfast at Tiffany's thing on a 7-year-old, I think she is. But then there's poor Charlotte. She gets on stage to recite from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but she freezes up and runs crying off stage and has to be taken home. She's so upset. And it's just like, aw. Because honestly, that probably would have been me at that age. Yeah, I was super shy about being on stage at that age. Yeah, I got over it. But during the question and answer part, apparently a lot of the girls bomb, but I think they give cute, honest answers. They're all 8 and under. Anything they say is going to be funny if it's real,
Right.
Like, it would score well with me. Mariah gives a perfect answer about, like, stopping wars and stuff. But Claire, they ask her, what do you hope for most of all? Santa Claus, whispered Claire, looking terrified. I hope he's real. I mean, come on. That's great. And then Karen is asked about what she'd rescue in a fire. I'd rescue Moosey, my stuffed cat, and Tickly, my blanket, and as many toys as I could carry. Oh, and could I rescue a fourth thing? If I could, it would be my brother Andrew. Or maybe my pen that writes in 3 colors. Another blown answer. Karen could kiss the crown goodbye. Why? That would be fucking hilarious. That's a great answer. I'd score her hella high. I mean, come on. But
yeah, because
if you don't think that's great, you're taking this way too seriously.
Yeah, it's because they have to move on to the next level, whoever wins. And so they want somebody who's serious.
Whatever.
Unless it's your talent to be funny.
Oh, maybe so. Yeah. Anyway, in the end, Sabrina Bouvier wins it all. But Mariah is first runner-up, and she's totes thrilled about this because she gets that shopping spree at Toy City. But Karen and Margot are crushed not to have won, and they're all crying. But Claire actually seems cool with it, and she's like, yeah, I want to do it next year. Don finally gets to talk on the phone to Jeff, and he sounds like the old Jeff. He even admits that he misses Dawn. And Dawn and Sharon agree that letting him go was the right thing to do, even though it was tough. And then Claire calls Dawn and asks her to help her with a beautiful child contest at Bel Air's department store. And Dawn actually agrees. But fortunately, don't worry, it's never mentioned again. There's no follow-up to that. Lucky you. Hey, kids! Do you love fighting over the card catalog?
Totally!
Now you can find your favorite podcast all over the World Wide Web. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, and Pinterest at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, or on Twitter at Card Catalog Pod. And as a special bonus, head over to our very own website, fightingoverthecardcatalog.com. And now, you can get the inside scoop on co-host Jess on Instagram and Twitter at Jess Digress.
Whoa!
Next, you can become a junior cataloger just by sharing us with your friends and rating and subscribing on Apple Podcasts.
Whoa!
Available wherever podcasts are sold. Podcasts not actually sold, but available on all podcatchers for free. Junior catalogers under the age of 18, ask your parent or guardian's permission before downloading. So did you have a favorite part?
Favorite part was when Mallory was telling them why they were bad, pageants were bad.
Yeah, that was basically my favorite thing too. I think it was a great first book for Jesse and Mallory to like be full club members and, you know, basically come out and shit all over the other club members. The older girls basically coming with a more mature point of view on it. I think that's a fun introduction for them to be full members. So, least favorite the entire rest of the book?
The repetition.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little over the top, but I mean, it was part of the plot, you know, everyone else getting irritated with them. So, but yeah, it was terrible on the audiobook. I'm sorry. So, I had my least favorite just being Karen and doing 15 verses and all that. But then you came up with that great idea of having her fuck with people. And now I'm just mad we didn't have that. So what are your general thoughts on pageants?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, especially in the younger groups, that they're exploitative. I am okay with them as an older group if you take out the swimsuits parts. Yeah,
I think most have at this point for you know, underage girls at least. Right,
because then it's it's kind of a hobby. It's something to prep for. You know, it's a little more than just a little kid going. Well, I I haven't ever been to a little kid pageant.
Me neither.
But I've seen snippets of it on, TV and things like that. So that's basically all I'm coming from. So
yeah. I think when they're little, it's mainly about their performance and stuff, and it's like y'all would do better in theater.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I guess that you can get a kid to go up on stage and try to think critically, I guess it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that part's all great.
When the parents are pushing them so hard, and when you're spending $1,000 on a dress for a 7-year-old, that portion of it.
Yeah, they spend so much money on it.
Yeah, so like they could just have like a debate instead. Instead of the evening gown competition, let's have a debate.
Yeah, I think it's more about the moms at that point, projecting onto them and, dressing them up basically like a doll.
Right.
Yeah, I'll admit though, I loved watching toddlers in tiara. It was a train wreck. And it was a guilty pleasure type show for me. Because I do enjoy watching kids perform. And they were usually terrible, though. There weren't actually a lot of stage presence, which is great, but not actual talented. But anyway. Did Megan ever want to do one?
Not that I remember. She wanted to be a cheerleader. Yeah, we watched Bring It On.
Oh, Bring It On's great.
And she loved it. She wanted to be a cheerleader after that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you got to really work hard at it. And she started watching there was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders show on.
I love that show.
And I think she started seeing kind of how hard it was going to be.
Okay, well, those bitches are crazy.
Yeah.
The ladies who run that program.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, man. Those people. Oh, they are terrible. I love that show, though. That's another train wreck show that I loved. It might still be on. I'm not sure. But yeah. Yeah, that's a rough show. Well, that's good. But they're not cheerleaders at that point. They're actually just dancers. I don't want to say just dancers, but it's a totally different skill set from like competitive cheer. I mean, think about how different that is from cheer on Netflix.
Yeah.
That's totally different.
Right.
They're dancers, which is, a whole huge skill set too, but
and
not cheerleading.
And it's a lot of going to events and doing PR
where they
work,
get paid practically nothing.
Right, yeah.
Oh man, that's the whole thing I could go off on. NFL cheerleading is a racket. Anyway.
Yep.
And earning so much money for Jerry Jones. Anyways. So I only kind of wanted to be in one once. Yeah. It may have had to do with this book. So, okay. I spent like 2 full nights looking for an example of what I'm about to say, but I could not find it and I'm so mad. But in the back of like 17 and teen, which I started reading 17 when I was 10. And I actually stopped reading it when I was 17. But so they had, like the cheaper ads in the like last few pages, that were black and white, like in the back of like other magazines, But there was always this one for a pageant. And so you could write to enter, as far as I remember. And so we did that, and I got something back saying, oh, you've been accepted in the pageant or whatever, and it gave you all the rules and stuff. But I never did any further than that with it. Like, I just thought it was cool to be accepted at that point when obviously it was some sort of a scam.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
obviously.
it was a little bit like Who's Who Among American High School Students.
Yes, yeah.
I got that. And I was literally excited. It was like, well, you can order an album of it, and you can order this certificate, and here's how much all that costs. Well, I'm like, man, I didn't even get senior pictures because I couldn't afford it. Much less like a $200 album for Who's Who.
Yeah. So that was my one brush with the pageant system. But I can see this picture of the ad so clearly in my mind, and it was always in there for forever because, after that point, I'd look at it and get all embarrassed. Even though nobody else knew about it aside from my parents. But yeah, that's who I was as a person. But yeah, I'm so mad I cannot find anything about it. I'm very upset. But anyways. Okay, so as is a Babysitter's Club book, we've got the next chapter in Anne's biography. This one is titled Getting Sick. So Anne had an accident as a kid. She was climbing down a ladder from their treehouse, facing the wrong direction, like facing forwards, when her brand new blue and white culottes got caught on the top of the ladder. And apparently said ladder was not attached to the treehouse in any way. So she went falling to the ground with the ladder landing on top of her. And obviously she had the wind knocked out of her, but she felt otherwise okay. But they took her in for x-rays anyway. They were clear, but the doctor said if she had pain in her left shoulder, they might have to operate. I was like, that's oddly specific. Have you ever heard of that? So it's a thing. A ruptured spleen can cause pain in the left shoulder because bleeding from the spleen may irritate the phrenic, Phrenic nerve, a nerve that originates in the neck and extends down through the diaphragm. So it's like, oh, did not know that. Very interesting. And so that's what happened. They did have to operate, but Anne got lots of gifts and attention being in the hospital. So that was dope. And I'll confess, I always kind of wanted a small reason like that to be in the hospital or something. Yeah, because it sounded, exciting. And you did get lots of attention and presents, but nothing ever happened to me. You?
Boo-hoo.
I know, for me.
I had one time where I was trying to jump over a swing, and I didn't make it. And I went face first and hit a rock.
Ow.
And had a cut above my eye that had to go in and get stitches. And you could still see the mark in my eyebrow because it, anyway.
Okay, but you didn't have to stay in the hospital. I had to.
I had to stay when I had tonsils taken out.
Something like that sounded really good to me. I still have mine.
I went into the hospital twice for what they thought was appendicitis, and actually was there for a few days.
So you did do it.
And I did not have appendicitis in the end on either one. And they couldn't conclusively say. Well, I don't know about the first time, but the second time my parents were going through the divorce, and they think it was just anxiety and general stuff, making my stomach ache and then me getting so tense that it made different parts of my body ache. And that makes sense. Yeah, the worst thing that happened to me, kind of like your cut, was I don't know why I had a box of toothpicks in my room, but I did. And I had spilled them, and one got stuck in the carpet, and I stepped on it. Ugh.
Yeah. And so it broke off, and it was pretty far in there. I mean, it was halfway in there. Yeah. And then it broke off too far in there, to be able to pull it out. So I did have to go get that taken out. but that's like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But I still have like, you can see where it was in my foot. It's like, it looks like a birthmark now. I don't know if you've ever really looked at the bottom of my feet. Probably not.
I haven't noticed.
I'll show it to you. Yeah, it's there. And it kind of got bigger as I got older, but yeah, whatever. It's just a weird thing now.
Yeah, the worst thing I ever had was probably my Achilles bursting. That was the worst thing I ever had.
That is the worst thing. That freaks me the fuck out because I've seen it happen to football players, and God, it looks, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Yeah,
oh
to describe
God,
it, it felt like somebody kicked me as hard as they could in the back of my foot.
Yeah.
And it's literally what I thought happened.
Yeah.
And I turned around and nobody was behind me. And then I just sat down on the field. I was playing soccer, sat down on the field, and I'm like, oh man, I messed up. And people were coming by, like, get up, man, get up. I can't. I need help. I need help. Come on, man, walk it off. I'm like, nope, something's wrong. And I couldn't bend my foot, obviously. That's what your Achilles is for. And and they walked me over they helped me walk over to, I was still walking.
Yeah.
They helped me walk over to the bench, and they had about 20 minutes left in the game. I sat on the bench in excruciating pain.
Yeah.
And then after the game was over, somebody said, hey man, you want us to drive you home? I'm like, no, I need to go to the hospital.
You motherfuckers aren't listening.
Really? It's that bad? I'm like, man.
Otherwise, I would have walked it off.
I said, I've never felt this much pain in my life. Yeah. I need to go to the hospital now. And so somebody helped me get into the car, and they were taking their fucking time.
Oh my God, what a bunch of assholes.
And I got to the hospital, and I have to wait in the emergency room for like an hour and a half before somebody comes and sees me, and I'm just sitting there in excruciating pain, holding my head.
So you didn't even get one of the big Tylenols or anything?
Not at that. I mean, not before they saw me in there. So anyway, I told him why I thought it was, and he looked at it and he said, yeah, it's your Achilles. It's broken. You can see how, look at this leg, and you see how this is right here, and you see how it's not there, and how you've got this whole bunch up here in the top.
Ew,
I mean, it was sitting.
Okay, they can't hear you,
The whole tendon was, it attaches here, and this is where it came off, but it was all up here. It was all bunched up here. So
I've seen it snap up there, when watching football. It goes.
Yeah. So, and so then they just sent me home with some crutches and some pain medication. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then I got an appointment for a few days later to go to a surgeon to talk about it. And then he says, well, you have two options. You can have the surgery, or you can let it heal back on its own. If you heal back on its own, you'll never have the range of motion, because it's like
I didn't know it would do that.
Yeah, it's basically like a rubber band.
Yeah.
And so we have a certain amount of tension according to the size. But if it pops up and then it grows back down, you have basically a very loose, big rubber band.
Ew.
And you never have the same motion. So, apparently my Uncle Bill, the tall one, Cody's dad, he had a torn Achilles when he was younger, and his doctor told him that you don't need to have surgery on it. It can grow back on its own. And I was talking to him about, well, this is, what they told me about that. And he was like, I was never as good at basketball again after that. And then, after I had that injury, I'm like, well, yeah, you can't push off the same, as you used to. Yeah, anyway.
So you had the surgery.
So I did have the surgery. And
I have seen that scar.
Yep.
Yeah.
They reached up in there and grabbed it and pulled it down.
gross. Okay, this is gonna need like a content warning.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing with our great healthcare system is after the surgery, my doctor moved to a different practice, but I was scheduled to come in for physical therapy to the practice where I was at. Well, after I got done with the first physical therapy session, they charged me for it, and I'm like, this is supposed to be part of the surgery. The the healing afterwards and the physical therapy, and they're like, well, that doctor left the practice and it was all through his name, so any physical therapy you have to pay for it every time.
Oh, fuck that
So I
noise.
had one physical therapy session.
Yeah.
And,
oh dear. Cool. So back to Anne. That was back in the day when kids weren't allowed to visit, at hospitals. So her sister and her friends couldn't go see her. But the school she went to was only a few blocks from the hospital. So during lunch, her teacher brought over a whole group of her friends and classmates, and they sat out on the sidewalk, calling up to Anne and talking and having a very nice visit. I'm like, good social distancing, y'all. I mean, it's very good. It's like, seeing all the pics and TikToks of, like people like setting up in the street, their camp chairs 6 feet away from each other to have a, get together. And yeah, I've seen a bunch of people like neighborhoods doing like, one's a Zumba instructor, so she's doing a whole class and everybody's like in their yards, and another's a like personal trainer, so they're doing like little weights and stuff. I'm like, that's wonderful and I love it. But then we got to get creepy. And
you know how privileged she was.
Oh, so much.
First of all, that her parents, even though she didn't have any outward injuries, would take her to the hospital.
Yeah, you'd have to put real thought into that now. Yeah. I don't know what healthcare was like in the, I think it'd still be 50s here. Yeah.
Well,
maybe?
It certainly wasn't as expensive.
Or 60s. Yeah. I don't know when all that changed to being so shitty.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Anne was beginning to have a beautiful hourglass figure around that time. What? Why are you telling me this? But the operation left a big vertical scar up her stomach. Anne's father said it looked like a night crawler. But everyone was very proud that Anne continued to wear 2-piece bathing suits when they went away to the beach that summer. She's such an inspiration. I mean, I imagine it would be difficult. I probably wouldn't have done it, but still, that's a creepy little bit in there. But later on as an adult, she began showing signs of something which was later diagnosed as an immune system disorder, possibly as a result of having lost her spleen. Like, she feels like she's got a really bad flu for a long time and her joints ache and she runs fevers and her glands swell. And like at first she was like tired all the time and couldn't even get out of bed. That lasted about 6 months and it like still pops up. And so that sounds like really, really serious. And then I got worried about how she's doing right now during the Ro-Ro. Because she lives near New York. But I checked her Facebook page and she seems to be doing just fine. And in fact is making masks to donate.
Nice.
So I legit got worried though. I was like, oh no. So no snark zone.
Welcome to the No Snark Zone.
Or how's the pandemic going for you?
Well, according to Trump, he has the best ratings for his news briefings. It's even better than The Bachelor.
I mean,
so there's that.
Yep. So we did a video birthday party for my bestie last week, and we started a movie, Emma, at the same time, which was so good, the new one. And then we chatted for a while afterwards, and not the most fun birthday party, but we hadn't seen them since all this started, so that was nice. Yeah, but we were she turned 42, so we were supposed to have a Hitchhiker's Guide party, so I'm real sad about it. But I did send her a Hitchhiker's Guide t-shirt that had 42 on it, and Don't Panic, which seems, good for the pandemic birthday. But yeah, kind of a lame ass party for what it should have been. But and we're talking about maybe doing Zoom D&D.
Yeah, that'd be something.
Would be nice, but yeah. But again, it's still not. I don't know. I feel lucky that our lives aren't very different, at least.
Yeah.
You went out once or twice last weekend. You picked up groceries and you went.
I went to have my car washed and to get the brakes done.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole time I was just, feeling icky.
Mm-hmm.
And then a guy came and stood right in front of me. And I got up and walked out.
Nice, good.
Walked outside.
Good.
Just stood outside.
Mm-hmm. Ew,
like, dude, come on.
That's gross. Yeah. I see people talking about, like, you watch TV now and it's like they're standing so close together. But yeah, Texas still isn't under a well, they say we should stay at home, but we're not a shelter in place, although our city now is. So that's something. The city got sued over it, but the judge said no.
So the ruling from Collin County originally was that only essential businesses can be open, but all businesses are essential, so everybody can be open.
Yeah.
And then with this lawsuit, that went.
Well, then our mayor, like 2 days later, said no. Our town's going under shelter in place.
Yeah. So that was McKinney within Collin County.
Mm-hmm.
So he got sued because the McKinney order was more restrictive than the Collin County order. And then it was heard before a different Collin County judge.
Yeah.
Who said, no, this needs to be a essential business only, and really only essential businesses.
Yeah.
And therefore the McKinney shelter in place order was then became in line with the Collin County order. And so the guy basically had to give up his lawsuit at that point.
Yeah, and the guy who brought the suit was a Tea Partier, and he said he's a real estate guy, and real estate is considered essential, which really,
if people need a place to live, you know, people still have to move for work and things, even in this time.
Yeah, but
I can see it.
He was like, I lost business. It had been one day. So it's like, I don't understand. You could stay open, my dude, but I guess people didn't go or something.
And is he saying that people don't want to come to McKinney because
maybe
of the shelter in place, whereas Plano may not have that right now?
I don't know. It was very weird. But anyways, the governor needs to do a whole shelter in place for the entire state, because this is silly. Even the East Texas stuff is growing now.
Yeah.
I have two friends who have had coworkers have it. And so one has been self-quarantining and the other is they're wearing masks now. When they should have been weeks ago.
There were apparently
because of where they work, but I won't say where they work.
70 kids that chartered a plane to go to Mexico to party for spring break.
I saw that go to UT. And I'm worried about Rachel now.
28 of them came back with COVID, and they took separate transportation back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they go to UT Austin, which my oldest goddaughter goes to and is still down there working at Chipotle on campus. So that's cool. Yeah.
And it's just coming out on the news that Adam Schlesinger,
Oh my God, I'm so sad.
the singer of Stacy's mom, has
Yeah.
died from
But do you know what else he did?
coronavirus.
He wrote That Thing You Do, the song for the movie.
Mm.
And it's like, do you realize how talented you have to be to write a song that actually sounds like a huge Beatles type song and that gets played over and over again in a movie without the audience getting sick of it?
Right.
I mean, that's like, he was severely underrated. So yeah, I love that movie so much, like so much in the song. And so I'm like, oh, I mean, I like Stacey's mom, but that kind of got to me a bit. He was only 52. It's like, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, like
But
3 Broadway people I know have it. I don't know how they're doing right now, but yeah. But
Trump's ratings.
oh my God. Let's leave it there. What are you reading?
I'm reading Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. It's the second in that series. It's been pretty good so far. And Some Assembly Required, which is a I don't know how to describe it. Decoding 4 billion years of life from ancient fossils to DNA. And the portions I've listened to so far kind of talking about natural scientists from the 1800s and them figuring out different things and how they came upon their conclusions, and how several of them said, oh, I found this, and then everybody said, ha ha ha, no, this is what it is, and then 50 years later they feel, oh, that guy was right.
That's interesting, yeah.
But yeah, and like it was talking about the salamanders and how they mutate, or what is it that caterpillars do to become butterflies? They metamorphosis. Yeah. So so he had these salamanders that he had gotten from some faraway place, and he kept them in his tank. And the thing with salamanders, you don't have to feed them very often. So he just kind of left them there and came back a while later. And I don't know what the time frame was, months maybe. And he sees a completely different species of salamander inside the tank. And his first thought is somebody's fucking around. And
I mean, yeah, you'd have to.
And put these salamanders in here. And so anyway,
magic
over the years, as he's
ghosts,
as he's studying these things, he figures out that the species that they brought over from another country were in a region where they didn't have access to water. It was just very dry. So it came out as this one type of salamander, but in this tank they had access to water. At all times it was a small layer of water, or whatever. But in a certain stage of development, if it has access to water, it will actually metamorphosize into a different. They said it's a completely different species from the other one.
So it couldn't actually. It probably wasn't actually months. For there still to be water.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Don't know what the time frame.
Unless somebody else was like putting water in.
But to come up with that, to figure that out, and to say, oh wow, there are certain things that can become something else if you give it these different environmental variables. That must have been very weird for him.
Yeah, that's a mind fuck.
Yeah, but that's just one example from the book. It's really interesting.
It sounds interesting. Yeah. So I did start reading on my iPad, and I have read some books because of that. So yay. I read Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Said. And I mentioned that a couple weeks ago because we saw them at the North Texas Teen Book Festival, and their book sounded really good. And it was. It's a cute love story, but I really loved seeing them. They get really into a political campaign and different issues, and like even though they're not old enough to vote, I just think it's a really great example. And he's Jewish and she's Muslim, and they live outside of Atlanta, so there's some issues with that, and it gets part of the opposition uses that, and then there's social media stuff, both good for the campaign and not so great. And yeah, it's very interesting, but very of our current time. And yeah, it's really good. I recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. And then I started reading You Never Forget Your First by Alexis Coe. And it's a biography of George Washington, but written by a woman. Which hasn't been done in like 40 years. I mean, there's only a couple of them anyway. But I wanted to read it because I heard her on a podcast, and she was talking about, it's not necessarily a feminist look at him per se, but just coming from a woman's point of view is different than all the men's point of view that have written, most of the biographies. And what really hooked me was she's talking about, like, in every other, like, recent biography of Washington, like, they talk about, like, how manly his thighs were. Because, I mean, that's what's going on in the portraits. And so she calls, the other biographers the thigh men. And, yeah, I mean, she pulls, like, quotes from the books, and it's like, they really are kind of obsessed with it. But anyways, it's very interesting. And I told you he had, is it malaria? What did he have? Like 7 times. He had all sorts of sicknesses. Yeah. I mean, he lived through a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's very interesting. Not too far in it. Did you know he never had kids of his own? He only had 2 stepkids when he married Martha, because she was a widow.
Yeah, I probably knew that.
Yeah. And then his stepdaughter had epilepsy. They didn't know what that was, but she died when she was 17.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and he got like really close to them because she was like 2 or something when they got married.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sad. Anyways. Anyway, so there are no direct descendants of Washington, so I don't know how I'm related. But apparently I am, because I looked up my name, just did a Google, and, the town I was born, and this Google Books result popped up, and it's like this volumes of the Washington family tree. I thought it would be, descendants of, but apparently there aren't any. So I don't know how I'm related, but there's like 20 volumes or something. But anyways, my parents and me and my brother and where we were born and our birth dates, and that's all in this book that I'm really curious to see in person. But anyways, it's on there in, the Google Books, where it shows parts of pages and stuff. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't want to go through the whole entire thing to see how I'm related, but I might at some point. I don't know. Anyways, it's really good so far. So our next book, because the week following the next episode coming out, there's like National Sibling Day and National Pet Day. So to, use those hashtags, next week we're going to read 10 Kids, No Pets. Also by Ann M. Martin. What? One of her non-Babysitter Club books.
All right.
I remember really liking this when I was a kid. But this is not one I've reread. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for listening. We're rereading the books of your childhood.
So you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.